In the last video, I showed how the community was wrong and that the real start of the spiderweb mystery wasn't the telegraph pole at the Cornwall factory like everyone thought, but actually the outhouses at Butcher Creek, more specifically the fourth outhouse, the one with the Fort Brennan carving. Following that clue and visiting the old military fort, we found a new outhouse that continues the village's numbering sequence, and digging even deeper into the investigation, we discovered the 3 carvings that were originally meant to guide the player to the first telegraph pole of the mystery. But what if I told you that once again the community was wrong? What if the real start of the spiderweb mystery isn't Fort Brennan, but everything actually begins in an even more unlikely and infinitely creepier place? More precisely in Scarlet Meadows at the Braithwaite mansion, the home of one of the most disturbing mysteries in all of Red Dead 2, Gertrude Braithwaite. The girl trapped in an outhouse hides secrets way darker than we ever imagined. Secrets that only started to make sense more than half a decade after the game's release. In this video, I'm gonna show you the direct connection between Gertrude Braithwaite and the spiderweb mystery, finally explaining the true meaning behind her confusing numbers and how they tie into Butcher Creek, the infamous cursed town in Roanoke Ridge. Plus, I'll show you a structure inside the Braithwaite estate that we players have always overlooked. I've personally spent countless hours exploring the Braithwaite mansion to create content for this channel, and honestly I can't believe I missed this. But to understand the real link between Gertrude's numbers and the spiderweb mystery, we need to start at the beginning, looking at her, the outhouse girl. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Gertrude is one of those mysteries that players can easily overlook. She's barely mentioned in the story mode and can only be found if the player decides to explore the back area of the Grand Braithwaite mansion. When you get close to this secluded spot, something strange happens.
Look!
Find a way home! You silly! Oh, bastard! Oh! 1, 2, 3.
As we can see, there's someone locked up in there, a clearly disturbed person. Peeking through the cracks in the door, we notice the girl has an extremely bizarre appearance. On top of that, she shouts confusing, aggressive words that don't seem to make any sense. Because of this, many players believe Gertrude only has mental issues, but the truth is way more complex than that and infinitely darker. In just 2 moments in the game, we can hear dialogues that talk directly about the girl. The first one happens with Beau Gray in the 3rd part of the mission, The Course of True Love.
Our families, the Grays and the Braithwaites, we bury our secrets, and we bury them deep.
Your secrets and your treasure.
You know, Catherine Braithwaite's got a daughter. No one's seen her in years. She weren't right, you know, and Penelope said...
I ain't heard about daughters. I heard about gold.
But Yankee gold? I fear that's just a story, Mr. Morgan. But I don't know.
The second one happens only in Chapter 6 during the 5th part of the mission, and it only unlocks if the player takes Penelope to the outhouse where Gertrude is trapped.
You don't want to mess around over there.
Where are you? Penelope!
This is painful for me. Can we go?
Who are you? Who's out there? Somebody's out there. What do you want?
That's my poor cousin. There's no helping her. Believe me, I've tried.
Want a kiss?
Leave her.
I knew how you Braithwaites treated enemies. Now I know how you treat Cam, too.
It's a great shame on a family that's shamed already. I told myself she was better off here with family than in a sanatorium, but maybe she isn't. I'll do what I can from Boston for her.
Sure you will. God damn. Okay, you still got a train to catch.
Get me away from all this.
Few people know this, but Gertrude Braithwaite is cursed, and she has a direct connection to the Butcher Creek pentagram. 2 very clear pieces of evidence tie this girl to the village. The first is the numbers she keeps repeating.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 17, 3, 4. 17, 29, 13.
It's like Gertrude is trying to count but keeps failing. She tries hard and insists, but the highest number she can reach without messing up is 5. The second clue is even more unsettling. She's facing the direction her outhouse points. If we follow a straight line from the edge where Gertrude is trapped, we end up right in a remote village in Roanoke Ridge, Butcher Creek. Once we set foot in the village, everything starts to make sense. There are exactly 5 outhouses in total, all the same type as the one Gertrude is stuck in, and inside each one we find a number carved into the wood, going from 1 to 5. Interestingly, the same limit Gertrude can count to without error. The connection between the girl and the pentagram becomes clear when someone decides to map these outhouses and draw lines connecting each one in numerical order, and the result is impossible to ignore. The lines form a perfect pentagram. For those who don't know, pentagrams are symbols historically linked to invocation rituals, pacts, and curses. Throughout Western culture, they've come to be directly associated with demonic practices, especially when shown inverted or hidden. By placing this symbol in Butcher Creek, Rockstar isn't just adding a visual detail, they're hinting that the place is marked by a pact or some evil influence, which helps explain Gertrude's condition narratively. But this isn't the only pentagram found in Butcher Creek. First, we have the pentagram formed by the map itself. Then there's a second one, hidden in an even creepier way. It's located beneath one of the village cabins, and just like the sand webs on the telegraph poles, this pentagram only shows up during a specific time window, precisely between 4 and 5 a.m. at this spot on the map. When we approach the cabin at that hour, a red light catches our eye from underneath the structure. At first glance, it's hard to figure out what it is, but using free camera mods, the truth is revealed. That glowing light is simply another pentagram. And this is where the grand connection is made between Gertrude Braithwaite, the biggest secret and shame of the Braithwaite family, and the intriguing mystery of the cobwebs discovered in 2026. From now on, we're going to talk directly about this connection. I'm going to show you solid proof that Gertrude is cursed and that she is actually the real starting point of this entire mystery. So go ahead and smash that like button and hit the hype button, because that way you help the channel and help YouTube recommend this video to more people. Going back to the pentagram hidden underneath the cabin, there are 2 crucial elements that link it directly to the spider webs. The first is its specific time to appear. Just like the webs, it only shows up for 60 minutes at a very specific hour in the early morning. The second is even more revealing. The pentagram is made from the same kind of mesh as the spider webs, with Rockstar using exactly the same material to create both models. Another clear and practically impossible to ignore connection involves the outhouses, a structure extremely relevant to Gertrude's mystery. After all, it's in one of them that she remains trapped. The outhouses also play a central role in Butcher Creek, since they reveal the pentagram and, even more importantly, guide us to Fort Brannan, the real beginning of it all. That's where we find the 6th outhouse and the centuries that lead us to the first telegraph pole located in the Cornwall factory. Another important factor is the very nature of the pentagram within the spiderweb mystery. If there's one thing the 3 videos I've already posted about this enigma make clear, it's that the spiderweb mystery is by far the most complex ever developed in gaming history. That said, we can't rule out a supernatural layer behind this mystery. And you know who else has a direct connection to the supernatural? Gertrude Braithwaite. Many believe the girl just has some kind of physical or mental disability, probably stemming from the Braithwaite family's incestuous relations, which we know were frequent. Also, Gertrude has a noticeable feature on her upper lip, indicating she has a cleft lip. A cleft lip is a congenital malformation, meaning it happens during pregnancy when the facial structures don't fully join together. It's a pretty common condition both in 1899 and nowadays, and the important thing is the person is born with the lip like that. But here's something really strange about Gertrude. She wasn't born that way. We uncovered Gertrude's true appearance when we visited the Saint Denis Tavern, where we found a photo featuring a very familiar person. Looking closely at that photo and comparing it side by side with the girl we know from the outhouse, there's no doubt it's the same person. The clothes are identical, the hairstyle matches, and the shape of the face lines up perfectly. This photo confirms that Gertrude's madness and weirdness aren't genetic, but rather the result of something that happened during her life. Something that fits perfectly with the idea of a curse. Otherwise, she would have been born with the deformed lip. Another subtle but extremely interesting connection can be found by looking inside the outhouse, more specifically, the bench where Gertrude stays seated. At first glance, this might seem like something simple, trivial, or even irrelevant. But if there's one thing I've learned investigating mysteries created by Rockstar, it's that coincidences just don't exist in these worlds. That's why we can't rule out the possibility that this spiderweb structure is actually another clue. Going back to Gertrude's lines, there's one in particular that connects directly to the second stage of the spiderweb mystery, Fort Wallace. Remember how the investigation leads us to the fort? Well, keeping that in mind while listening to Gertrude, one of her most confusing and seemingly unrelated lines makes a lot more sense compared to what we find there.
Where's the birdies? Stop it! Stop it! Ugh.
As we can see, Gertrude talks about birds. Coincidence or not, that's exactly the animal carved at the top of the Fort Wallace watchtower. Now I ask you, is this gathering of subtle clues just a coincidence, or something carefully planned by Rockstar to guide us through this mystery? It's fair to question this, especially since up to now many of the clues are still subtle and entirely circumstantial, but now I'm going to show you two pieces of evidence that, at least to me, definitely seal the connection between Gertrude Braithwaite and the spiderweb mystery. So get ready, because what you're about to see is pretty intense, and it completely changes the way we see this mystery. Back at the Grand Braithwaite mansion, something really curious can be found very close to the outhouse that traps Gertrude Braithwaite. Just a few meters from the structure, there's a small family cemetery. In 1899, this was totally common. Wealthy, old money families used to bury their dead on the property, both for religious reasons and for status and territorial control. So at first glance, there's nothing strange about this detail. This cemetery only gains real importance when we cross-reference it with the evidence found throughout the mystery of the spiderwebs. Do you remember the second to last telegraph pole? The one you can find by following the trail of the last and biggest spiderweb hanging high up in a tree. Well, when you shoot that pole, a carving is revealed, and what we see there is something very specific. 5 crosses, and at the top the letter W indicating west. Now here's the creepy part. When we compare this carving to the Braithwaite family cemetery, we'll notice that the tombstones are arranged in exactly the same way as the pattern carved into the telegraph pole. 5 crosses with the same spatial orientation. Could this just be a coincidence? Well, I've made it pretty clear throughout this video that I don't buy into this kind of stuff, and Rockstar seems to agree with me, because this isn't the only time this pattern shows up. In Roanoke Ridge, near the cursed village of Butcher Creek, we find another mystery strikingly similar to the Braithwaite one. Once again, the arrangement of the crosses is almost identical, but unlike the first, this cemetery holds something more. Remember that the carving on the post didn't just show the 5 crosses, but also the letter W pointing us west? So now I ask you, what do we find when we head exactly west from the Butcher Creek Cemetery? Well, the answer is precise. The village's 4th outhouse, the very one that leads us to Fort Brannan. Exactly the one that bears the creator's signature on the mystery. Exactly the one that directly connects Butcher Creek to the Webb mystery. None of this is out of place. None of this is random. As we can see throughout this investigation, everything points to Gertrude Braithwaite as the true starting point of the Webb mystery. She's the one who guides us to Butcher Creek. It's through her that we understand the importance of the 4th outhouse. And it's this structure that leads us to Fort Brannan, where we find the main clue that takes us to the first telegraph pole located at the Cornwall factory. But unlike what the developers originally planned, the community ended up uncovering this mystery in the hardest and most unlikely way possible, starting right at the 3rd stage of the investigation. In this video, you got to know the real first stage of the spiderweb mystery, and if you want to check out the other stages, diving even deeper into the investigation and staying up to date with all the latest evidence, I highly recommend you watch the video that kicks off the spiderweb theory here on the channel. Just click the yellow arrow to be taken to the start of this whole spiderweb odyssey explained in Red Dead 2. Big thanks, really appreciate you watching, and see you next time. Bye.